here we are. Okay, countertops got installed today. You can see quartzite product. I still have to trim out the sink. That's another video to come. But everything's in. I've got my, although covered up, reclaimed flooring countertop for the island, and I went ahead and retrimmed it and painted it to match the other cabinets. So all that's done. It's time for backsplash. So I'm gonna get started setting everything up and prepping the walls. It's gonna be a simple Subway white backsplash because we're selling the house. A lot of people like that. That's what we're gonna do. Is it my choice if we're staying here? No, but it's gonna go with everything else and we're setting it up for sale. So I'm gonna show you guys how to do a simple Subway pattern backsplash, basically brick, stack brick, and I'm gonna run it all the way around the perimeter, and I'm actually gonna even run it out into here. You can see where the old Formica 4-inch backsplash was on that unpainted section there. So let's get started. All right, so in order for prepping, you have to have a few things ready to go. First things first, I got a brand new quartz countertop. I'm gonna protect it from all the dirt and smear and everything else that's gonna happen. So I always lay towels out. Towels are thicker than plastic like some guys lay down. I lay them across all the countertops so I can set tools and things that I need on there without having to put everything on some other mat on the floor and go up and down. So cover your countertops, protect your work surface as always. Second thing, 2-foot level, 4-foot level, okay? I'll tell you the difference in a minute. Trowel, I'm gonna go with actually a 1/4-inch notch trowel, okay? This is a margin trowel for scooping. This is the notch trowel for actually spreading the thin set, or in this case, I'm going with a mastic or pre-mixed thin set product, adhesive, that's gonna go on the drywall that's currently here around the perimeter of the countertop, okay? Thin set has to be used in wet areas. I can use a pre-mixed adhesive or a mastic on drywall surfaces because I'm not putting it and setting it in the shower. It's pre-mixed, I don't have to make any more mess. It's just as good as any thin set would be, as long as it's not going into an area where it's gonna be constantly wet, like a shower or a bathtub. So keep that in mind. You can use mastic on drywall as long as it's in an area like this. I'm gonna set, like I said, a simple Subway tile, white semi-gloss tile, 3x12, and it's gonna be in what they call a brick stack pattern, okay? So basically, I am going to have a full piece, and the second course will have staggered pattern where half of a piece will be lined up with the edge. So, and you'll see that as I lay it out. That's my tile. That's everything you need, plus pencil, tape measure, and then a wet saw would be helpful. You can use a scoring machine if you want to, but you can even run a wet saw at all the big box stores now like Home Depot. So make sure you have something like that to be able to cut the tile. Okay, second thing, I had a 4-inch Formica backsplash, so I went ahead, once that countertop came off, we pulled the backsplash off. It had caulking in the top. Always prep your surfaces to get those walls as flat and debris free as possible. I just went ahead and scraped everything off. Make sure you have some sort of tool you can use to scrape it off. There's actually scrapers out there you can use. Razor blades are fine as long as you keep your hands away from the blade. Don't want to cut yourself. Okay. Once that is all ready to go, you've prepped your surfaces, then I'm going to go ahead and lay out where my tile is going to end. So in this case, it's going to end at the edge of the countertop, which means I need to figure out from the edge of the countertop up here my straight line, because this cabinet is actually shy of the countertop here. So this tile is going to come out past the cabinet, but it's going to be in line with this edge. So that's where these levels come in handy. Your 2-foot level says my backsplash will be going between my countertop and the bottom of my cabinets. I set right here, hopefully you can see this, on the edge of the countertop, level it up, and I'm going to draw a little line, very light. So I have a working point. Okay, there's my light line. All right, second thing, I'm setting the tile directly onto the countertop and running it across. That's my given point on the bottom. So I need to make sure this countertop's level. If it's not, I gotta find a line, and a level line that's gonna set me up to make sure that my backsplash is gonna be level all the way across, especially as I stack my courses, right? If it's out of level, it's gonna start looking a little bit crooked, especially in the bigger spaces over here. So I set my 4-foot level on here and I check points. First point here, the bubble's dead in the middle, so we're good. I'm gonna come across past my sink area. Still beautiful. All the way back. On the money, okay? Come all the way out to this surface. I'm gonna do a little more. So everything's perfect on that row, so I'm good to go. I'm gonna set my levels right here, okay? And now I'm ready to do my layup. I'm gonna confirm this is where I wanna be. Got my tile. Last thing to make sure, you wanna actually pull all of your outlets and switches away from the wall because you're gonna be running your cuts right up to your edge of your box, okay? That way the faceplate will sit back flush with the tile and not have a gap or some awkward cut behind it, okay? That's how you cover all of your openings for your devices, your electrical devices. Keeping that in mind, since these were sitting on drywall before, it's actually gonna push those outlets and switches forward. So you need to have spacers, approved spacers behind your outlets when you finish, all right? So when you're prepping, go ahead and pull all those forward. If you feel more comfortable, turn off the power. I would recommend that. Unscrew and pull everything forward so you can start running your courses. You don't have to do all of it at once. You can just go ahead and pull devices as you're running across into them. Once you have them set, you can get your spacers out and put them back on without the covers. Okay, so as I go along, I'll show you how to do that as well. All right, so that's all we need to do to get started. Everything's pre-mixed in here. I'm gonna go set up the wet saw. We're gonna start running our layers. who can kind of work ahead of you, pull all the devices out, and also work behind you as you're setting tile to just clean, especially when you're doing backsplash. That really means you're to have all brand new material in the house, including countertop, cabinets, whatever it is. You want to make sure you keep those surfaces clean, because the more you keep it clean during the setting, the less cleanup and work you have to do before you have to grout the tile. So keep that in mind as you're working. If you're working by yourself, have a sponge and a bucket ready. If you know, keep refreshing that water. Keep wiping the thin set off the countertop as you go. Having either a little razor blade or a little scraper demolish tool is going to be really, really helpful as well. That way you can kind of scrape lightly across all the surfaces to keep it clean as you move. So keep that in mind as you work. Again, this pattern that I'm doing, I'm literally setting the second course in the center of the course below it. So it's a 12-inch actual tile, and it's going to set right in that grout line at 6 inches, just so you see here. And then I'm just working my way across. You can do a staggered pattern just like you would set flooring. I'm going to get here, and I'm actually going to add a new piece of trim under the sill, so I have to go figure that number out, and then I'm going to come start running back all the way across to the edge. A couple more things I'll show you as I move ahead. Grout day, here we are. Okay, tile's done, right? Oh great, I'm almost finished. No, here's the part that can make or break a tile job, and you have to pay attention to these steps in order to make all of the work that you did so diligently look really, really good still. A good tile job can be ruined by a bad grout job, and vice versa. But if you've worked and worked and worked to get these tiles just the way you want them, and you're good to go, all the prep and everything that goes into grouting is the next step. And you want to make sure you do it this way, so what's on the wall now or on the floor turns out just as good as it looks right now, okay? Things you need. Okay, this is actually used for scraping grout out of tile as well, okay? So one of these basically is just basically it's like a paint scraper, but you can use this with a sharp end on both sides, and you can actually resharpen these things too. To scrape out grout. To scrape out the thin set left behind if you didn't do a good job cleaning. So the other thing you need is a really sharp blade, okay, on one of these working knives, which also helps scrape out the thin set in between the grout lines. You want to make sure that these are clean enough you can bury grout into each one of these edges, okay? And I'm going to show you the technique to do that, but you want to make sure it's nice and clean. So what you want to do is go about scraping all that thin set out, any areas that you missed in between the tiles. Come back with a little shop vac or vacuum to clean it all up. Do not brush anything out, suck it out if it's stuck in there. And then clean up your work surface. And then you want to prepare your grout, okay? So just a cordless drill with a mixer on the end. A small one actually works best because you don't want that thing slopping around. You want to mix it nice and fine. And you're going to work it to basically a cake batter consistency. And I'll show you how to do that as well. And there's proportions on the back, a lot of the grout boxes that tell you, but as you get more used to it, you can mix it without having to figure out how much water and measure all that stuff. So, last thing you need, it's called a float. The float is actually going to help move the grout around on the wall and actually push it into your grout joints, okay? There's a technique to this. It's not that hard. It's a little bit tedious, but this is the part that'll make or break your tile job. So, basically what you want to do, on a backsplash in particular, I'm still going to have my margin trowel. I'm going to go ahead and apply some grout to this, and I'm going to push it at a 45-degree angle up onto the wall, and then I'm going to push down on the other edge, okay, and force it down and across into the joints. Down and across into the joints, and keep those edges up, okay? You're not pushing it flat and moving it around. And you can basically scrape off the grout as you go, and then move it back into the joints. You can scrape it and push it back in, and scrape it and push it back in. And you can use these two edges as well, okay? You're gonna work that all the way across, keeping in mind to work in smaller sections so the grout doesn't start setting up on you, because you wanna come back and clean it fairly soon after you've set the grout in there. Otherwise, you're gonna be spending a lot more time getting rid of it. So I have a really easy way to clean grout where you're not gonna spend days finding residue, especially when it's sanded. In this instance, I'm using unsanded grout, but either way, there's a technique to clean it just as well as it is to apply it, okay? So we're gonna get started. I'm gonna go ahead and start prepping the surfaces. Then I'm gonna come back. I have a clean bucket of water and a sponge. I'm gonna have a grout bucket. I'm gonna work in small areas where I apply the grout, stop, clean it up, work to the next area. Only mix as much grout as you can work with in about a 35, 45 minute time frame tops, okay? 20 to 30 minutes is about what you should be doing at the beginning, so keep that in mind. We're gonna get started, and then we'll be done with the kitchen. Okay, mixing grout, pretty simple. Like I said, cake batter formation. Kind of that's the consistency you're going for. You want to obviously get a fresh, clean bucket to dispense, and then, like I said, mix enough just to work in about a 20 to 30 minute time frame tops. Okay, so that's gonna be about a third of the bag for me, based on what I think I have to get into on this backsplash. First thing I like to do, add a little bit of water to the bottom of the bucket. That way when I pour it in, it doesn't make a giant mess and it's easier to mix. All right, so finished mixing. Enough where it just slowly starts to fall off that knife, okay? Like cake batter. that's a wrap on how to set a backsplash. We got the whole thing completed. All the grout is cleaned up and everything's kind of been put back in place for us to move out. That's it. We are down to punch list stuff. I'm kind of walking through the house as we speak. We're getting ready for the big move here in a couple days. If you haven't checked out the other videos, this is just one in a series called Renovating My Own Home. An effort to get everything ready to go and put the house on the market, which it is. It's now under contract. And like I said, we're getting ready to move in a couple days, hence the chaos. But minus some of the stuff on the counters, you can see the finished product. Make sure you guys subscribe if you haven't. Appreciate all of the support. Like the video, leave comments, and track us on our next adventure. I got more videos coming out, including the How to Flip a House series. There's a few already posted. Go check those out. I got more coming. If you got any ideas or anything you want to see, let me know. Till next time, guys. Appreciate it.